At the start of every new Pokemon generation, there's always a choice of what version to get, with the differences between each version usually being different encounterable Pokemon and different box art. And then come the sequels, which are enhanced versions of the originals with even more differences. But just how many differences are there between the games of a single generation? Well, that's what we're going to be looking at today. And what better place to start than with Generation 1, which also happens to be the generation with the most games taking place in the same region, with 4. It's a little confusing, but I'll tell you how we're going to be analyzing this. But to do that, we're going to have to take a look at the timeline first. Pokemon Red and Green were released in Japan in 1996. Later on that year came the third version, Pokemon Blue, which improved upon the original two games by fixing some bugs and adding graphical improvements. 2 years later, Pokemon Yellow was released in Japan, which was the first proper sequel as there are a lot more differences and additions. Barely after the release of Yellow in Japan, Pokemon Red and Blue were released in North America, but they weren't exactly translated versions of the two Japanese titles. The Red and Blue that we got are actually a mix of Japan's Red, Green, and Blue. Most of the assets came from Japan's Blue, like the updated graphics, scripts, and game engine. But the data needed to make Red and Blue have version-exclusive features came right from Red and Green. There actually were differences with what Pokemon you could find in Japan's Pokemon Blue, but we never got to see it because that part of the game never saw a localized release. But anyway, in 1999, Pokemon Yellow saw a localized release. So, now that we have all of that out of the way, what's the best way to structure this video? Well, I think the most accurate way to know every difference would be to compare all of the unaltered Japanese versions, and then maybe some regional changes at the end. So, we'll be comparing Pokemon Red and Green, and then Pokemon Blue to Red and Green, and then Yellow to all three of them, and then maybe looking at some regional changes that weren't already mentioned. So, let's start with the version-exclusive Pokemon of Red and Green. The Ekans, Oddish, Mankey, and Growlithe lines, as well as Scyther and Electabuzz, are exclusive to Pokemon Red, whilst the Sandshrew, Vulpix, Meowth, and Bellsprout lines, as well as Magmar and Pinsir, are exclusive to Pokemon Green. The title screens are also coloured differently when viewed from the Super Game Boy, and a different selection of Pokemon can be seen scrolling across the screen in each version. But now it's time to compare Red and Green to the Japanese release of Pokemon Blue, with which there were quite a few more differences. In Pokemon Blue, the following Pokemon are completely unobtainable, where they were previously found in either Red or Green. This would include the Ekans, Vulpix, Mankey, and Bellsprout lines, as well as Electabuzz and Magmar. However, Lickitung and Jinx, Pokemon that could previously only be obtained through trades, can be found in the wild in Blue, while Tauros and Kangaskhan took their place as a trade-only Pokemon of the game. Other in-game trades were also changed to different Pokemon, but it didn't impact what Pokemon you could and couldn't receive in-game. A few encounter slots were changed too. Raticate, Clefairy, and Rapidash have been added to Cerulean Cave, Ditto has been added to Rock Tunnel, and Psyduck and Golduck were removed from Seafoam Islands. A number of glitches were fixed from Red and Green to Blue, and the region of Kanto itself received a few graphical changes. A good example of this would be the redesign of Cerulean Cave, which would carry over to the English Red and Blue. All Pokemon received new front sprites. Some are a marked improvement, like Mew or Wigglytuff. But honestly, I prefer quite a few of the original Red and Green ones, like Blastoise here. Seriously, what were they thinking? One of the changes that was a little more difficult to research was the fact that HP ups are supposedly available from the department store in one game and not the other. I have a Japanese Red version, but it's not even played through, so I had to resort to the next best thing, my bootleg Pokemon Green, which I can assure you runs exactly the same way as a normal one would. So here I am, in a place that you can get vitamins. I can't read Japanese, but this is a combination of symbols that we're looking for. And I can't find it anywhere. I guess it's not available in Red and Green, but when I checked my Blue version, sure enough it was there. I don't have a Japanese Blue to test this, but seeing as our Red and Blue pretty much only uses Red and Green data for obtainable Pokemon, it's safe to assume that you can buy HP ups in the Japanese release of Pokemon Blue, but not Red and Green. The final change to Blue would be the intro screen. In Red and Green, it showed a Gengar facing off against a Nidorino, but in Blue it was changed to a Jigglypuff. There was also a different selection of Pokemon scrolling across the screen too. This change carried over to the English release of Pokemon Blue, whilst the intro featuring Nidorino was kept for the English release of Pokemon Red. But with these three games covered, it's time to compare them to Yellow, which there's a lot more to say about. Not only were things altered in Yellow, but entirely new features were added too. It was intended to appeal to the viewers of the anime by imitating its style as much as possible, while still making sense as a parallel to the three previous games. But how exactly did it do do this? Well, for starters, there is no choice between starters. Your rival gets an Eevee as a starter, while you're left with Pikachu. This Pikachu will follow you around and you can interact with it too, in reference to Ash's Pikachu in the anime. Pikachu's cry has also been changed, with it saying its name like it does in the show. And yet again, a new intro is featured. Gone is the Gengar battle, and in with the cute little intro of Pikachu running toward the screen, which is pretty fitting. A bunch of graphics have also been changed. Examples would include all Pokemon front sprites, for the second time, and some trainer battle and overworld sprites. A few of the characters also had minor design changes to better reflect Yellow's connection to the anime. Examples would be policemen and Pokemon Center nurses changing to Officer Jenny's and Nurse Joy's, and characters like Misty and Brock having sprite changes that are more reminiscent of their designs from the anime. A lot of the gym leaders also had their teams changed too, some of which to better reflect the Pokemon used by the gym leaders in the anime. Some of the trainers in different routes have been changed to reference characters from the anime too. For example, on Route 6, a male junior trainer has his previous Pokemon replaced by a Weepinbell, while a female junior trainer on the same route has her Pokemon replaced by a Cubone. This is in reference to the characters Joe and Giselle, who own both of these Pokemon. There were also a few Pokemon that were made unobtainable in Yellow, and so have to be traded from other Generation 1 games. These Pokemon would be the Weedle, Ekans, Meowth, and Koffing lines, as well as Jinx, Electabuzz, and Magmar. An addition that's likely related to this is that Jessie, James, and Meowth appear during the storyline. I'm guessing that they removed their signature Pokemon from the wild to give them a little more impact. Pikachu has also been made unobtainable outside of your starter, but this Pikachu can't even evolve, making Raichu unobtainable in this game. As for other changes made to obtaining Pokemon, some of the in-game trades were altered, whilst others were completely removed. Abra also moved from its original location to the route surrounding Saffron City, likely in reference to Sabrina, the Psychic-type gym leader. Pidgeotto was also added to Viridian Forest, which is probably in reference to Ash's Pidgeotto. Two Pokemon that were previously available as trade-only Pokemon, being Farfetch'd and Lickitung, can be found in the wild. Though if you remember previously, Lickitung can also be found in the Japanese version of Pokemon Blue as well. A very notable change would be the fact that all 3 Kanto starters can be obtained in this game, instead of only 1 per file. Cerulean Cave received yet another updated layout which differed again to the first 2. Various updates to game mechanics, as well as support to external devices was added. Moves learnt by level up, as well as TM and HM compatibility were also altered. The most notable example of this would be Charizard finally being able to learn Fly. A new mode named Colosseum 2 was added to the Cable Club. The move Kinesis was implemented as Kadabra's signature move, whereas before it could only be accessed if you happened to get it through Metronome. The Safari Zone entry system has also changed, as you no longer have to have 500 Pokédollars to enter. If you have that much, they still take it from you, but if you're a little low on cash, it's okay. Support is also added to the Game Boy printer, so you can print stuff like Pokédex entries, diplomas, Pikachu's beach high scores, and more. Wait, what? Oh, of course, I haven't actually talked about that yet. In Pokemon Yellow, the Summer Beach House is added to Route 19, and if you have a surfing Pikachu, then you get to play this new minigame, and you can print your high scores in this neat little picture using the Game Boy printer. Another change would be the fact that during the capture tutorial, the old man actually fails to catch the Pokemon, which is a Rattata instead of a Weedle. In all 4 versions, different Pokemon can be acquired from the game corner. In Red, you can get Abra, Clefairy, Nidorina, Dratini, Scyther, and Porygon, whereas in Green, Nidorina and Scyther are replaced by Nidorino and Pinsir. Pokemon Blue has Abra, Pikachu, Horsea, Clefable, Dragonair, and Porygon, and Yellow has Abra, Vulpix, Wigglytuff, Scyther, Pinsir, and Porygon. One of the last things that we have to look at would be the coloring of the games. Of course, all Generation 1 games are monochrome because they were released for the Game Boy, but they can be played in color when inserted into a Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance console, but the default color palettes differ by game. Pokemon Green has a primarily green palette, Pokemon Red's is red, Pokemon Blue's is blue, and Pokemon Yellow's is primarily yellow. Well, at least in Japan anyway. Outside of Japan, Pokemon Yellow has added support for the Game Boy Color. Still limited, but very noticeable when compared to previous versions. The reason why this was only a feature for the localized release would be because in Japan, Pokemon Yellow was released before the Game Boy Color. Yellow was released in the West a year later, by which time the Game Boy Color had been released, so it makes sense that there would be added support for it. All of the Generation 1 games can also be played in full color using the Super Game Boy. The Super Game Boy is an add-on to the NES which allows you to play Game Boy games on your TV. The game would also be displayed with a special border that differed by version. There were also a couple of interesting changes that were made to the localized releases of Red and Blue. For example, the animations for a few moves were changed. These were moves that included high-speed flashing and were most likely changed in response to the controversy caused by the anime episode Electric Soldier Porygon, to prevent anything like that from happening again. Did you also know that the Old Man glitch, which is infamous for being the most well-known way to find the glitch Pokemon missing no, only exists in the localized releases of Red and Blue, and none of the Japanese versions? I wonder what they did differently to cause this. But I think that's it. Those are what I believe to be all of the differences between Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, and Yellow. I think it would be pretty interesting to do this video for Generation 2 and more as well, so I really hope that you enjoyed it. A video that I made recently that I would be super happy if you checked out would be my list of the top 10 rarest items in Pokemon. Check it out, I'm sure that there's at least one item that you haven't heard of. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!